Hey y'all, I'm Tracy and this is Just Dig It Farms. Welcome to our channel. If you're new to our channel, I just want to give you a little quick back history, a little story about us. My husband Gene and I have always dreamed of owning a farm, owning our own land and creating a sustainable farm where we could grow and raise most of all of our food as naturally and organically as we possibly could. So we found our perfect piece of property, which is surrounded by water, natural resource, and old hardwood forest. About 9 acres of it is old hardwood forest, and the other 9 acres was pasture land. And other than that, there was nothing on the property. So we've lived here for 3 years. We live in a manufactured home. It is a double and a half is what they call it. So we made the decision to get a manufactured home. We moved it out here and we've been working the last 3 years on establishing a permaculture orchard, a potager kitchen garden, cottage gardens. We've got our chickens established. We have 1 rabbit. Our girl rabbit died a few months ago. We've got a dog, Champ, and a cat, Jazzy. And we have honeybees. We are up to 12 hives of honeybees now. So that's what we have so far. We have big visions of goats and sheep and more rabbits and more gardens and more gardens and more gardens. My educational background is interior design and landscape design. I work at a garden nursery and farm in Jemison, Alabama, where I am the landscape designer and I do all the displays and merchandising there. My husband Gene is a salesman and he works for a company that supplies boilers and equipment for hospitals and schools and all kinds of different businesses. So that's what he does. He is in the corporate world. But we both enjoy so much gardening and farming and the whole farm life. And we work on this farm every opportunity that we get. Every spare minute that we have, this is what we do. We enjoy every minute of it. So I decided to create this YouTube channel about this time last year, just to be able to share our journey with you guys in hopes to maybe inspire you or to encourage you or just to share information and knowledge with you guys, and also to share our failures and our successes with you. My vision when I started this channel was just that you as a viewer would feel like you just drove up to our farm, come through our gate, and we're just 2 friends with the same interest, hanging out, walking around the farm, talking about plants, talking about animals, talking about gardening, just sharing the same interests and passions together. So we've been working really hard in the potager garden the past few months, just planting vegetables, planting flowers and seeds, and building structures and preparing garden spaces and beds. If you're part of our YouTube family and friends already, you've seen some of that process and some of that journey. But today I wanted to just take an opportunity and walk you guys through the cottage garden and the potager garden and just show you what's blooming, how much it's changed since last year. I did a video last year about this time of the cottage garden and the potager garden and the whole design process and the vision for it. If you haven't seen that video, you can go back and watch it now and you can see how much things have changed since then, see what all we've done in the past year. But today I just want to walk you around and show you what's blooming and show you what all's taking place in the garden. This is coming off of our back porch, and this is my Japanese maple that I started from seedlings long time ago at our old house. This is Peggy Martin Climbing Rose. So she's starting to climb over and eventually she'll go up our storage shed. Those are my walking onions that I just harvested. So I've got to do something with them. This is my little shed where we keep our golf cart and the storage building. And Peggy Martin is going to be lovely on this storage shed in the next year or two. Underneath my Japanese maple, I have old-fashioned heliotrope. This is so pretty, such a great ground cover. The honeybees love it, butterflies love it, all the pollinators love it, and it's just a great ground cover. So the little garden in front of the storage shed, I've got my 2 pots here. I had big blue point junipers in there. They were about 3 years old. I took them out and we moved them over in front of Jean's barn. And I just went and got 2 more because I've got a space. I'm gonna want these in a couple of years when they get a little bigger. So I'm just growing them up in the pot. Makes a beautiful container plant. And then I'll move it. I'm gonna move them up by our fence in a few years. But in my pot this year, I've done blue point juniper, dusty millers, cascading vinca, which I absolutely loved last year. And this year I've put in a sweet potato vine. I'm not usually a big fan of sweet potato vines. Just, I don't know, I guess because I feel like they're used all the time. And I always try to do something different. But I just really wanted that purple in there this year, so that's what I did. In both of my pots. I've got a little drift rose. Knockout makes these drift roses. I believe this one was apricot, or maybe it was peach. But they only get 1.5 feet tall. They get 3 feet wide. I'm personally not a fan of knockout roses. They're gorgeous, they're beautiful, but again, I think it's one of those things where I feel like it's just overdone. Like, they're everywhere. And so I always do antique roses or earth kind roses, but I do love this little drift rose that Knockouts created. It is gorgeous. There's all colors. There's a coral, there's apricot, there's peach, there's red, there's white, there's popcorn, there's all different colors of them. And they just fit such a wonderful space because they only get 1.5 feet tall and 3 feet wide, and they're just beautiful. They're repeat bloomers. I do love those. This one was a rescue from the dump last year, so I think it's doing pretty good. More Henry Dulberg salvia. These are all Ryan's pink chrysanthemums here, and that is Valerie Finis Artemisia. There's no bloom, but the foliage is spectacular. It's beautiful in arrangements, and it's just so wispy and pretty. I'm going to be digging up some of this and adding it to the cottage garden or potager. I haven't quite figured out where I want to put it yet, but definitely some of that's going to go there. And those are peonies that I brought with me from my old home. And no blooms because they've been moved a million times, and peonies do not like to be moved. But I feel like this is a pretty good spot because they get morning sun and afternoon shade, and peonies need that in our hot, humid environment. These are Sarah Bernhardt and Festiva Maxima, and I hope they're going to do good here. This is my little native azalea bed. Jean and I put these rocks around it. These are rocks that we got from his mom and dad. And we put these rocks around it, and I love it. I absolutely love it. It's going to be so pretty when all these native azaleas get big and bloom in the spring. They're gorgeous. And this little phlox is Wanda. I love this Wanda phlox. It is so pretty. It'll just spread. I like the foliage on it. And it'll just spread. It'll fill up all around in this bed, and the blooms are beautiful, and it just keeps on blooming too. It just keeps on showing out all spring and summer, and even into fall it'll be blooming. It's beautiful. So I'm hoping that's just going to fill up this space, and then I'll have the native azaleas coming up. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 native azaleas in here. I don't really even know what colors they are, which kind of bothers me a little bit. I don't know how I'm going to feel if an orange one or a red one pokes up in here. I'll probably be replacing it, but I'm hoping they're all the pinks and the pale pinks and the whites and the yellows is what I'm hoping for. We'll see. A lot of those were rescues, and then some of them my friend Sue at work gave me little baby plugs, and I put them in here. This is that Carolina silver bell that I had in front of the house, and I moved it over here, which I'm gonna love it here. They're native here, and we've got one that's come up down at the creek. We found it when we first moved here, and it's beautiful. It's so pretty. The little bell-shaped blooms on it are gorgeous. So that's our drive. You enter there, and then you come down, and then right where the woods start, all the way down, is our little native woodland shade garden. Just so you can kind of get a perspective, there's the house, storage building. There's the little native azalea bed. And then as you're walking, we've got these two great trees here. And I thought, man, that's like a doorway. So what I'm doing is we'll have pathway here. I don't know what I'm gonna use for pathway yet because I want it to stay really natural looking. But I've got these two trees. On each side, I've got climbing hydrangeas planted. So that one that's a Chinese climbing hydrangea. It's not native, but the foliage and the bloom on it is really full and spectacular. That one blooms really, really well. This one is a native hydrangea. I just planted it a few days ago, really. Sue at work gave it to me. I helped her do a design plan, and she bought me this plant, so I love it. This is the native climbing hydrangea for us, native for Southeast. And the foliage on this fills out really nicely. It blooms good too. You can see the little bloom. And this is definitely a shade lover, a shade loving plant. But my idea in this is to have that climbing hydrangea go up this tree, have this climbing hydrangea go up this tree, and then right up there somewhere, we'll take some wire or maybe even a board. I'll probably get Jean to get me maybe like a cedar log or something, and just kind of attach it from tree to tree and let that climbing hydrangea go up it, and it'll make like an entryway into this little woodland shade garden. So you'll come through here. There's my swing. I had a climbing hydrangea planted on this tree, on that big tree, but it died because it don't get a lot of water over there. So I'm gonna get another one and put there because I really want it to climb up the tree, come up over this cool branch, and there's my swing that we sit on. So this kind of is going to be your pathway, and around all the trees I've made like little beds around each little grouping of trees, and these are oak leaf hydrangeas that I've planted. The extension center was tearing down a building last year, and my friend Sandra told me that I could come with her and dig up whatever I wanted. So I went and got, I think I dug up like 40 something oak leaf hydrangeas, and 23 of them made it. So I was pretty proud of that, and I planted every one of them out here. December. I did that in December of 2019. So they're coming. Gene just put me a couple of rocks out here from the rocks that we collected from his mom and dad. I thought they were really cool, just to kind of have a couple of little sit rocks out here. So all of these are oak leaf hydrangeas around these trees. Then you'll kind of walk out this way. And right here, there's these 3 trees, 1, 2, 3. And right in the middle of it, I planted my Camellia Sinensis. So that camellia is actually a tea camellia. Camellia Sinensis is a tea camellia. So all of our tea, black tea, orange tea, all of our tea is made from the leaf of this camellia, of this specific camellia. This is definitely a shade-loving camellia. Has little tiny white blooms on it. The honeybees adore it. That's one of the main reasons why I got it. We had it at the nursery, and the honeybees were just consuming it. So I said, oh, it's got to go home with me. I really wanted this over in my medicinal herb garden, but it needs shade, and there is absolutely no shade over there. So it's gonna live here. And I'm thinking it's probably gonna like fill up this whole space. It's gonna be really pretty. Behind it is a maple that's coming up. It's a red maple that's coming up on its own, so we've left it. I love it. So this is the pathway. You'll just walk through here and then kind of curve. There's that camellia. You'll just kind of curve through here. And then around all these trees, little groupings of trees, I've got more hydrangeas and that grouping down there. At the end, way down there, that is a snowball, a Chinese snowball viburnum that makes the big old snowball blooms. That'll be real pretty as you drive up. That gets full sun, so that's gonna do well there. I had planted some deciduous hollies all out in here, but they didn't make it. Like I said, this thick canopy of trees, not a lot of rain actually hits the plants. So we have to come out here and hand water with buckets. We're babying these hydrangeas and camellia. And once they get established pretty good, then I'll start adding some other things out here. But this is just a work in progress. I plan on spending the rest of my life building these garden beds and gardens. Not getting in a hurry, just taking my time and collecting rescues from the sales trailer and friends that are passing on things to me so I can have stories with my plants and just, you know, collecting my plants. So I plan on working on these gardens the rest of my life. This is the back of the house, and this is our little bed going across the back. We have a ramp because right after we moved into our house, it was Christmas, and my father was in a wheelchair, and Gene built this for me so that he could be able to come for Christmas, come to our house and visit us and stuff. And I'm so thankful that he did that because my father passed away right after that. It was his last Christmas with us. But this is my bed. It's time to rip these pansies out and put something else in here. I've just been adding annual color in front of this little arborvitae. But I'm going to find me a little ground cover perennial, I think, to put in this space. This is a emerald green arborvitae. It'll get about 6 to 8 feet tall maybe, but it's not going to be very wide. It's only going to be max about 2.5 to 3 feet wide. And I've got this right here at the bottom of the ramp because I'm going to be stringing it with lights for Christmas. These are Pieris Japonica temple bells, which I love, love, love. They're beautiful late winter, early spring. They get plumes of little bell-shaped blooms, and they're so, so pretty. I have 3 of them here, but this one got killed. It's barely got a little life coming out of it, but I'm about to just dig this up and purchase another big one to put in its place. It got, I believe what happened is last summer, ice cream salt got poured on it. I think that's what happened to it because it just burned it up. So I'm pretty sure that's what happened. So that one I've got to replace. This is a camellia. I believe this is Stephanie's Golden. It's pink. And I've got this here just because it's going to get really big and fill up this whole corner of the deck here. This is Angel Vine, and I'm just letting this be a little ground cover. This is really beautiful in containers, shade containers, but I'm using it just to cover the ground back here. The more space I can cover the ground, the less weeds I'm going to have to contend with. I've got my hostas are popping up. I love the variegation of hostas in a shade garden and Solomon's seal. I think a shade garden is so beautiful, but I think you need that variegation in it just so it'll pop. This is a Lenten rose. I can't remember the exact name of it, but I'll put it on the bottom of the screen here. But isn't that beautiful? This starts blooming late winter and it's still blooming in its April. It's so pretty. More little hostas popping up and coming alive. This is mountain laurel, which is Camellia latifolia. And I got these off the sale trailer. They were like almost dead. And they're finally starting to try to perk up out of it. I love the little bloom and they smell so sweet. They're native, they're a southeast native, and they're beautiful. I can't wait for this to fill up. It's gonna get really big, like around 6-8 feet tall, about 5-6 feet wide. So I'm hoping it's just gonna cover up this whole space here, fill in this whole space. It's evergreen. So it's finally coming around. This is a cup hosta. So the leaves kind of make like a little cup and hold water, and it's great for pollinators to just come get a drink of water. And that's a Solomon seal that I had forgot I had planted. Well, I remembered I had planted it here, but I thought it had died, and it's popping up on the side of this hosta. And I think I might just leave it because I think I might like for it to just, that Solomon seal is just going to fill up, like it's just going to pop up and just multiply and fill this whole space up. And it might be kind of cool for that hosta to just be popping up amongst it. I don't know, we'll see. That is another Camellia, pink blooms, Stephanie's golden. I've got both of these are kind of on each side of this deck. This is a Viburnum tinus, spring bouquet viburnum right here. It makes these sweet little blooms in the late winter, early spring. You can see it blooming here. And then it starts setting berries. You can see it starting to set little berries right there. And there'll be little metallic blue berries. It's so beautiful. And I've seen honeybees on those blooms. They love it. But this is going to get about, I think it's about 8 feet tall. And it's going to be pretty wide too. So I'm hoping it's going to come up to the bottom of my windows there and just kind of fill in this whole space. This is my bird bath, and on each side of my bird bath is Sister Teresa hydrangeas. These are the old macrophylla hydrangeas, the big old mop head hydrangeas, and they're white blooms. I had these on the side of the house, and I moved them over here because they were getting way too much sun over there. And more hostas popping up. And these two here are camellias. They're alboplena camellias. They're white. That one come off the sale trailer, so it's trying to come out of it. That is another hydrangea. I don't know who it is. I got it from the extension center last year. They tore down a building and I went and dug up some things. These are hostas popping up. Really pretty. But whenever this blooms and I see what color it is, I'm going to get two more the same color. And I'm going to put one like right in there. And I'm going to put the other one like right in that space right there. But I got to wait till it blooms so I can see what color it is. This is my banana shrub. If you're not my friend on Instagram, come follow me on Instagram. I try to put a post every other day or at least once a week of things that's going on in the garden, just different blooms and different stories about what's blooming in different plants. So if you're not my friend on Instagram, go follow me on Instagram. It's Tracy, Tracy .Britnell. But I put a little post of a banana shrub bloom on there a while ago, probably about 3 weeks ago when it was blooming. I don't see any blooms in here. I was going to try to show you one. They smell like ripe bananas. The little blooms smell like ripe bananas. This is an evergreen tree or shrub. It could be a shrub, but I am forming it into a tree-shaped form. I want it to get about as tall as this house and just make a cool little tree form out of it. More Lenten roses my friend Connie shared with me, and these are the cream, limey and cream colored Lenten roses. And that is a rhododendron, evergreen rhododendron. It's Radiance. It's real pretty pink. It just finished blooming. I put that on Instagram too, the bloom. I hate that it's not blooming now for our little tour, but I can't get everything blooming at the same time. This bed here, we just did railroad ties because it kept our foundational dirt kept washing, and the railroad ties really helped hold it in. But right here on the ends, this bed here, it's just too squared for me. All this is just too squared. So right here, whenever I do another rock haul, I'm gonna make me a curve right in here of rocks and plant like some pretty little ground cover, or maybe do like groupings of hostas, or I haven't really decided what I'm gonna do yet, but I am gonna make rounded curves here and there with rock and kind of give some shape. But back here is going to eventually be, all of this is going to be a walkway from up there coming back here. All of this, I hope, is going to be like pavers and stones, like a patio type out here. And we're going to do a fire pit or fireplace and a retaining wall kind of going to the edge of the hill there, and have an outdoor kitchen out here. But that's what all of this is going to be eventually. We've got big visions. This, when you look off here, is our bog. There's a cool bog down there, and there's the creek. But that's the cool thing about this property. There's so much diversity. See if you can see it. Like, we have a bog, we have cypress trees and cypress knees all down in there. There's all kinds of life going on down there. Frogs and lizards and snakes, which I'm not happy about that one, but there's all kinds of different aquatic plants down there. It's just really, really neat. Okay, so there's another one of my Japanese maples that came from our old home. I dug them up as seedlings. My vision is on the corner of this railroad tie, all the way to the corner of this post at the storage building. About the center of it, I'm gonna have like a iron gate, but more in the shape of a door, to go right in the center. And then on each side of it will be evergreens. So it'll be living wall on each side, so it'll be enclosed. And then as you open the gate, you can either go into the back door, or it will lead you down the path and to the outdoor kitchen and fireplace. So that's the vision. It'll be like a room back here. That's going to be a little while, but that's the vision. Okay, let's take a look at a few things in the cottage garden around the side of the house here. This is Crystal Fairy Rose, which is beginning to bloom. It's such a beautiful little rose. It's so sweet. It's only going to be about 2.5, 3 feet tall and about 3 feet wide. So I've got those all in this space. You can see them. And then here's catmint. I love catmint at the base of my roses. I love it. This is a gardenia, and you can tell she's struggling. So you see the yellow leaves on her. Anybody that has a gardenia probably has this problem. They're a little testy about where they like to be planted and what they need and what they like. When your gardenia has these yellowed leaves like this, a lot of times it is an iron deficiency. So I just fertilized it, and you can see there's new growth popping up out of the bottom here. But I just fertilized it to encourage new growth, and I gave it a little dose of iron. So she should pop right out of that and be healthy and pretty. That is a Camellia Pink Perfection, and it was tiny, tiny when I got her. It was on the sale trailer, so I'm very patiently waiting on this thing to grow. Camellias are super slow, and I want it to fill up this whole corner of the house here. It's going to take some time. These are old-fashioned garden chrysanthemums, Ryan's Pink. It's very, very pretty in the fall, so that's going to be a lot of fall color. This is Little Bobo Hydrangea. This is where I had my sister Teresa hydrangeas that I moved around back. So I've replaced them with this Little Bobo Hydrangea. It's a paniculata hydrangea, and all paniculatas need sun to bloom really good in the summertime. And it's only going to be about 3 feet tall and about 3 feet wide. White blooms. More catmint, more crystal fairy roses. And these are emerald green arborvitaes. Again, about 6 to 8 feet tall. And so they're going to get right below the base of that window. And I've got my little bird baths there. And then in front, I've got, these are green velvet boxwoods. So I'm trying to create like a little rounded wall around my bird bath. So they're going to be, they've gotten bigger, and they're going to fill in nicely and make me that little rounded wall. And then I've got the evergreens behind it. And I'm going to get Jean to make me like a trellis type thing away from the wall to go up, over, and back down. And I'm going to plant a climbing rose there. So the climbing rose will just kind of be a backdrop to all of this. These are Salvia Henry Dewelberg right there, which is awesome. It blooms from spring until frost, so you have a lot of color. Hummingbirds love it, butterflies love it. That's another Pink Perfection Camellia. These are more crystal fairy roses and catmint. And these crystal fairy roses are going to bloom spring, summer, and fall. So they're repeat bloomers. That is another gardenia. And then we're moving around to the front of the house. So these three right here, that one, and that one, these are all little lime hydrangeas, which are paniculata hydrangeas as well. And they bloom in the summer. They need sun. This is a tea olive, Osmanthus fragrans. This one is a dwarf tea olive. So your regular tea olives will get like 12, 15 feet tall. This one's around 8 to 10. So it'll fill up this corner. It's evergreen. It blooms spring and fall. You can see the little tiny white blooms, which are really, really fragrant. The whole yard will just be full of fragrance from this one little tree. These are my Lamarne roses. Lamarne's a beautiful little polyantha antique rose. Sweet, sweet, sweet blooms. It's got like a glossy leaf. It's gonna be around 3 to 4 feet tall and wide. Repeat bloomer. So I've kind of got it rounding this corner here. Got 4 of them here. And that is a Kusa dogwood, which blooms more like late spring, summertime. And then it sets fruit that hummingbirds love, and it's edible. So this is here, and it's slow. This was on the sale trailer, and it's just slow getting going, but eventually it's gonna make a nice little shade in the corner here. Lamb's ears rounding my rock. So here you've got lamb's ear, Lamarne roses. The dogwood will be nice and make a nice canopy. Behind it is little lime hydrangeas, and then the backdrop will be the tea olive. Will fill up that corner there. And part of my goal in the design around this house, the back plants are all evergreens, because I want them to cover up that white underpinning. I want to hide that as much as I can. We were gonna do rock all the way around the underpinning of the house, but a lot of our house on the other side is going to eventually be a deck. For budget purposes, I decided we'd just do this white underpinning, and I would just use my plants to kind of camouflage it the best I could. Okay, let's move around here. Those windows there, that is my study, my creative spaces. I can look out those windows and see my garden. And those windows are the boys' bedroom. So what I've done here is I've got wintergreen boxwoods all along the back of the garden there in front of the window. Last year I had a camellia planted over here in the corner, so I didn't have that boxwood, and I had a camellia there, but it was just so puny. It just was not doing good. I moved it, and we put a boxwood there last week to replace it. So eventually it's going to get big enough. Right now it's a little out of balance, but eventually it will get there. But this will be like this boxwood. I'm going to let them all grow together and make me a little wall here, and then I'm going to get planter boxes that go all the way the length of the window, and we'll be planting those. And I'm doing the same thing over here under these windows. Okay, so in front of my boxwoods I have my favorite rose, Quietness. This is my favorite rose. So beautiful, so fragrant. It just has a wonderful story. So pretty. So this is Quietness, and on each side of Quietness I have an ornamental dwarf blueberry. It's Vaccinium dorawi, and this is Rosa's Blush. I love this little shrub. It's so sweet. Look at the foliage on it. It's just beautiful. It holds this foliage all year, blooms in the spring, and then it sets these little blueberries for summer. Gonna be about 3 to 4 feet tall and wide. The blueberries are edible. You know, they don't taste as good as like your regular fruiting blueberries, but they're good, and the birds love them. I've got more of the old-fashioned chrysanthemums right there. And then I've got, in spaces behind my groupings, I've got Salvia, Henry Dulberg, because it just kind of gives that spiky element and bloom, spring to frost. I've been trying to make my decision. I had a silver bell tree here, and I didn't like that, so I moved it. And I've been trying to make my decision what I want to put here, because we really need shade in these bedrooms. You can probably tell in this video that it's super sunny out here, and it's really hot, and the sun is just blazing on this part of the house most of the day, like hot. So we need shade here. I've got that little dogwood that's going to kind of shade that corner, And I've got my Yoshino cherry that's going to shade this corner. But I'm still going to have something that goes right here to shade those two rooms a bit. So I've been trying to find like the perfect tree because I don't want it to get too big, but I want it to be big enough to cast some shadow and shade on those windows. I'm thinking about the forest pansy red bud. It's got beautiful heart-shaped burgundy colored leaves, and I'm thinking that's what I might put right here. It'll go like right there and then come up in canopy. So that's my thought. I'm still thinking it through, but here I have, these are more Bobo hydrangeas, there and there. I just planted these last fall, so they're babies. Lamb's ear, and then these are fairy roses. They're the pink ones. These are old roses. Sweet, about 3 feet tall, 3 feet wide. You can see the blooms. Really sweet rose. Let's see. Repeat bloomer. These are more the little dwarf ornamental blueberries there and there, just to kind of balance this side. And I've got my fairy roses just kind of circling and wrapping here. And then over here on this edge is my Yoshino cherry tree. This little rose is a polyantha. It's Verdun. It's only going to be, that's probably about as tall as it's going to get. It's gorgeous. And this little rose is just amazing. It just keeps on blooming these clusters. It's beautiful. I love the color. So got 3 of those right there. The Yoshino cherry. In front of these I have my lamb's ear. Here's some more Ryan's pink chrysanthemums. There's my spiky little Henry Dillberg. And behind it here is limelight hydrangea. So this one's going to get about 6 to 8 feet tall probably. That's what it could get mature. These are more of the paniculata hydrangeas. So this one's limelight, 6 to 8 feet tall. The one down there on the corner was a little lime, about 4 to 5 feet tall. And then the little Bobos are right there, and they're about 3 feet tall. And they're all that limey green to white, and then as they start drying, they turn like a pink color. So, so pretty. This is the front of the house, and we're gonna have a deck that starts right here at the corner, goes all the way around and wraps around the side of the house. So eventually that's gonna happen. There's Gene in there working. Let's see, can you see him? But this whole thing's gonna be a deck eventually. That is going to happen. It's gonna be kind of expensive to wrap this whole thing in deck. So it's down the list on the priorities. We're trying to get our land paid off quickly and knocked out, and then we can start doing major projects like that. So I'm just being patient, not doing anything with this area until I can build my deck. This will be the pathway. You walk down this way, go right through there, go into up the stairs, up the deck, into the house, and then on this side of the deck, I'll be putting more limelight hydrangeas, and we'll be building the beds in front of that. That is my autumn blaze maple, which is beautiful. That's going to create some shade. That tree over there is the Florida sugar maple, so that's going to be beautiful and create some shade up here. The sun's just so hot and intense in this front yard. And that tree over there is an October glory, so that's going to create some shade. And then we've got 2 Natchez crepe myrtles right here, and those will create some shade a little bit on this side of the house. Eventually these pathways are going to be brick or stone or something, gravel or something. I haven't quite made up my mind yet, and then all of this will be parking. I haven't really added a lot to the cottage garden this year. Like, I haven't hardly added anything at all. I've been really focusing in on the potager garden. And the reason why is because I want to let everything that I have in the garden just kind of fill out and grow a little bit and see wherever I have spaces, and then I'll just plug in more perennials. But I feel like I've got a great foundation of my structure plants, my evergreen plants, the bones of my garden. And now it's just going to be a matter of wherever there's spaces, when things fill out and mature, just plugging in some different perennials. I have moved a lot of things, like the camellia that was in that corner, the tree that was in this corner. I've taken lamb's ear and just divided it and used it in other places in the garden, like that one. I've done things like that. And I'm always moving plants. And that's one thing I would say is like one of my biggest tips in creating a cottage garden. Don't be afraid to move plants. If you don't love where it's at, or you don't feel like that's the perfect spot for it, or you realize that it gets too much sun or not enough sun, or it's going to get too big or whatever, don't be afraid to move it. Move it until you find it the perfect home where you're going to love it there. So I'm always moving plants. Jean gets really aggravated with me about that, but I'm going to move it until I figure out the perfect home for it. I try to figure it out on paper and in my head first, but it don't always work that way. So if you need to move a plant, move a plant. And also another one of my big tips for cottage garden design is year-round interest. You know, have something going on in the garden all the time. Not just evergreens, that's something that's going to stay green all year, but have other things that's going on in the garden, just like these chrysanthemums. That's going to be a beautiful fall show. It's going to be gorgeous. And like these blueberries, they're blooming in the spring, there's berries in the summer, and they have that beautiful foliage all year. So try to add things to your garden that's just going to create a lovely space all throughout the year. It's so hot out here, y'all. It's like supposed to be in the 90s today, and it is so hot out here already. It's crazy. Last week I'm covering tomatoes because of a frost, and today I'm burning up. It's 90 degrees. Alabama. And next week we're supposed to maybe get back into some 70s, so you just never know what you're gonna get here. I'm walking over here to let my buddy Champ out. He's having a fit. He wants to join us on our garden tour, so. Hey, buddy. Hey, bud. Hey, you want out of there? Huh? Champ is still like super hyper. I hate it, but we still have to keep Champ locked up, like at nighttime and when we're not here, because he's just still so wild. And he runs up if we're not here, or if we just leave him out and we go in the house. He'll be up at the road, he'll be at the neighbor's house, and he's calming down a lot, and he's getting better about that, but he still does it. And I just cannot stomach the thought of coming home from work and him being ran over or something. So as bad as I hate to keep him locked up, we have to right now until he can calm down some, and we're working on training him, and he's doing a lot better, but I'm still not confident that he's going to stay here where he's supposed to be. So that's why Champ's locked up. While we're over here, these are my girls. These are all my little chickens. I've got all different kinds in here because that way they lay me some beautiful Easter eggs. I've got greens and blues and browns and whites and all different colors, and I love them. So let's look at their garden. This is the coop garden. This is Farmer's Dream Rose, and it just finished blooming. Instagram, I put a post of the bloom, and maybe I've showed it on one of my other videos. I can't remember. but I'll put you a picture of it in here. But it's beautiful. I love Farmer's Dream. It's gorgeous, just gorgeous. And it'll repeat bloom. It'll bloom summer and fall. So it's just finished with its spring show right now. So this is my chicken coop garden. So all in front of the coop, these are plants that I actually use for my chickens for their health. Except the boxwoods, of course, and I've just got that because I want it to make me a little green wall right there. I've got some more on the other side over here to do the same thing. But I've got oregano and rosemary. I put rosemary in their nesting boxes a lot. And oregano, I just feed it to them. I use oregano oil in their water to just help treat parasites, but intestinal parasites. But I also just feed them oregano too. I put it in their food. So that's oregano. These are my pots of mint, parsley, sage. Sage is good for their intestinal tract too. Parsley is too. Mint, rosemary, oregano. These boxwoods are just to help make me a little wall here on this corner. Lemon balm, bee balm, more oregano. And I've got a eucalyptus over here. It's growing. I want it to grow up and cover and hide my water catchment here. And then right here, I've got some creeping fig growing on my bricks. So I'm hoping that's going to completely cover my bricks before long and just be green. But all of these plants around the chicken coop are either to give them for their health, to put in their nesting boxes to help encourage laying and all those kind of things, or they're used like the mint and the bee balm and all, they're used to help deter pests from flies and pests from getting in their chicken coop. So that's the coop garden. And this is my garden shed garden. I've got, let me show you this, I've got some little baby seedlings going up here. A lot of them are herbs that I'm growing for the medicinal garden that we've started in the potager. Some are peppers, some are watermelons, but a lot of them are herbs I'm trying to get going. This is my little pot of strawberries and asparagus. They're great companions together, by the way, but I don't have my raised beds built yet. And the asparagus and strawberries are going in raised beds because they're perennial crops. They come back every year. These asparagus actually come up voluntarily out of my compost pile. So I just dug them up, put them in this pot with some strawberries. I've got mints here. But this is my garden shed garden. This little Phlox is May Breeze Phlox. Is so sweet. I love it. It makes a nice little evergreen ground cover. And then it blooms really sweet little white blooms in the spring. I love it. This is another emerald green arborvitae that's gonna like grow up this corner here. As you can tell, I love these. I love them. I love to use them for structure. In the garden, I just love them. Mostly because they only get, 6 to 8 feet tall and they're only 2.5 to 3 feet wide, which always fits a need. I've got a green velvet boxwood here just to make me a little evergreen little structure round shape here. That rose is Lamarck. It's a creamy yellow white. It's gonna climb this trellis and go over my awning eventually. It's just slow to get going. I've got Australian tea tree there in that pot. That's what tea tree oil's made out of. It is not cold hardy, so this is one I'm gonna have to move in and out of my garden shed. I actually had one in my old garden at our old home, and I had it in the garden, and for like 4 years it survived. It would die back every year, but it would come back and just be bigger each time it come back. And then we had a bad snow one year, and it got it. These are thymes in here, and let's see what's over here. There's my Hypertufta. This little petunia is a new series. It's called Super Vista series of petunias, wave petunias. And this one is silverberry, I think, but they have one called bubblegum. They've got all kinds of sweet colors. And I just love this. It's supposed to be like an incredible performer. And so far, it's not let me down. I've got some silver brocade Artemisia in here. This was left over from last year. It come back. And I just stuck a coleus in there, a purple coleus. I thought those two was just beautiful together. That's my bay leaf tree. And another boxwood. And then I've got all kinds of lavenders in here. They weren't doing great, and I added more, and then they're coming out. So I've got probably 3 different kinds of lavenders in there. More of my little phlox. I had a sedum that I dug up from somewhere. I can't remember where I got that from, so I just thought it'd be pretty right there. I love sedums in the fall. Another arborvitae, and then as you come around the corner, the side of the garden shed, I've got Annabelle hydrangeas there and there. They're going to be really pretty. And then this is a little drawer. It just finished blooming. I hate that I didn't get that on video for y'all. And then in my corner over here, I have ginger. And this is supposed to be the edible ginger. I got it from a little herbal lady at farmer's market a couple of years ago. And I got that cinnamon tree from her. I think I've told you all about that before. And I've got moringa tree from her. My moringa died and didn't make it. But I've started some from seed. And I'm super stoked about that moringa. Because it is so high in nutrients and all kinds of good healthy benefits for you. I'll tell you guys about that a little bit later. That could be a whole video. These are just some pots I've got planted over here. And then this is my little table and chandelier. And I'm starting a little sedum pot here. Those were rescues from work, and I'm gonna get some more and just fill this pot up with really cool sedums. I love this little pot. I just think this is so cute right here. That's a little Korean green velvet boxwood I had left over. I thought I needed it for up there and I didn't. So I put it in this pot, and this is a little spike moss. It's so cute, I love it. And angel vine coming out of it. But look at the color of this spike moss. It's like this bluish green, beautiful color. I love it. So this is my garden shed garden. Those Annabelles are going to be glorious right there. I cannot wait for that. And I cannot wait for that Lamarck rose to take off and climb the trellis and come up over the awning. I'm going to have to give her some go-go juice or something because she's just not wanting to get moving. Well, guys, this video turned out to be too long. I get out here in the garden and I start talking about all these plants and everything, and I just lose track of time. This garden tour is going to be part 1 and part 2, cottage garden tour, which you're watching now, and potager garden tour, which will follow right after the cottage garden tour. So sorry I tried to do it all in one little video, but it's just way too long. So I'm going to break it up and we'll have 2 different videos. I hope y'all enjoyed the cottage garden tour, and I hope you stick around and watch the next potager garden tour video. God bless you.